Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and Prez, in this episode 454. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Prez, that is at _Presidente on Twitter and at Presidente, no underscore, on Blue Sky. Prez, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Coming into 2025 with a lot of positive energy, just like our Knicks, the Big Purr, the kids from Westchester, etc., etc.
It's all positive vibes here right now. Tends to happen on a 9-game winning streak. All right, we're going to talk about that. Talk about a lot of things. But before we do that, I do have to make a few announcements. First week that Strickland has a YouTube channel where you may watch this podcast. If you are, and you have not done so already, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. The Strickland also has merchandise, which you can find on our website at www.thestrick.land. There's a link that'll take you to the merchandise store, and there's all kinds of cool stuff on there, like t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. The Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, this podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to Takes from Obvious Bozos, podcast hosted by Andrew Steele, aka Doug, along with Zach Blatter. And you get access to the Strickland Discord with the conversation never stops. The further tiers is a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland Roll, my solo pod where I randomly wrote the next few more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew and Brandon, one of the best in the business. And you get access to Strictly NFL, which, you guessed it, is a podcast about the NFL that is hosted by Konstantin Metrikos and Desmond Novak. For the tiers is a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and $100 tier. That's come with a variety of additional benefits like listening in on pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. None of this would be possible without you. And none of this would be possible without BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL to entertainment and political props. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline. The game starts here. So, speaking of games, the Knicks defeated the Utah Jazz yesterday evening for a very comfortable 119-103 victory, despite being without the services of one Jalen Brunson and Deuce McBride as well. Karl-Anthony Towns powered the way. He had 31 and 21, just another monster performance. In a string of monster performances that ultimately won him Player of the Month. So shout out to Karl-Anthony Towns for winning the final Eastern Conference Player of the Month of the year 2024. You also got a triple double from Josh Hart. Really, really good contributions from Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, who I thought both really brought it defensively. Cam Payne chipped in. Tyler Kolek chipped in, basically doing a two-a-day because he played at 39 minutes for Westchester
He
earlier in the
did that
day.
shit like how high school students at AAU do, where you just got multiple games in one day in different parts of the same state.
Yeah, he was really good when he came in. And then Precious Achua, also solid contribution off the bench. Landry Shamet had a nice little 11-minute cameo in the first half. Still wondering what's going on, why he can't play in the second half until garbage time, but hopefully that will resolve itself over time. I thought he actually looked pretty good yesterday, although I think he only took one shot, and it was just a layup. So maybe just finding his feet and where he kind of fits in within the Knicks offensive ecosystem. But yeah, just a really solid win all around, and one that very near and dear to my heart anytime we can beat a team that has Danny Ainge leading their front office. So very satisfied with that victory, and I'll segue into what we're actually talking about today, but I want to get your thoughts on this game and just kind of what you've seen from the Knicks in general.
Yeah, it was a fun game. I think I don't know how it was in the rest of Knicks fandom, but the earlier loss to the Utah Jazz among Strickland Discord participants. I don't know what it is about the Jazz or Danny Ainge, but like that caused by far the most angst and crashing out of any loss this season. even including the Celtics ass whooping that we suffered to open the year off, it was a little inexplicable to me. But we are in a much different place now than we were then, and the team pretty much knows its identity. I thought it was cool that I thought a couple things were cool. Number one, Bailey, our new contributor and video maker extraordinaire, did a video.
Much better than your videos.
Oh yeah, why do you think I haven't done a video since he started doing videos, bro? I'm
I just
fucking
want to.
retired now. He got me out the pay. He sent me into retirement.
I just want to let everybody know. Yeah.
The streets know. They know. You know, you got to know when it's your time to fold and let the new generation take the reins. But not. So one of the recent videos he did was after the first of the two Wizards games, and basically the video was Bailey talking about why when Alex Sarr would drift off of Josh Hart, we didn't just make through Josh Hart through screens or through him being the ball handler like we did against the Magic, the shorthanded Magic when we beat them. And
the murderous Magic, some might call them.
Yeah. And we ended up doing the Josh Hart stuff versus the Magic in the first game at the end and in overtime. But even though the Jazz stink, they kind of, maybe it's because we didn't have Brunson, but like they pretty much did it from the get-go, even though the game remained kind of close. Like you could tell that was still part of the game plan. They weren't going to let the Jazz get away with ignoring Josh Hart without suffering immensely. So it was good to see him sort of orchestrating the offense for large swaths of the game, especially with Brunson out. It was also really cool to see. We all know that the bench, despite both units being very good at offense, we know the bench plays a lot faster than the Brunson lineups just because running and gunning isn't really Brunson's thing. So it was kind of cool to see Cat and Josh Hart just fucking launching like 50-foot passes every other minute because the Jazz suck and have terrible transition defense. That was easily the most hit aheads I've ever seen in a Knick game. So it's just kind of cool where you can get those from like your center with Cat doing these baseball throws, football throws, and Josh Hart doing that from his grab and go rebounds and shit like that. OG and McCall just downfield like wide receivers. There's your once a podcast football analogy from Prez. Nailed it. That makes sense, right? That's correct.
Yep.
Got it. Expert. Nailed it. Catch me on Strictly NFL Never. That was cool. What else? I don't know, man. I mean, we've gone on a number of Jazz rants through the months and years. The Jazz are, I won't belabor it. The Jazz are a Ponzi scheme.
More
I know
coming
you talk
on this
about
podcast on the Jazz. Don't worry.
Uh-huh.
Said more coming on the Jazz in this podcast. Don't worry about
All right, I'll save it then. But for now, I'll say they're a fucking Ponzi scheme. Even the people I know who like, they're not Jazz fans. They're fans of the players the Jazz have drafted, like among like the draft internet. Even those people are like fucking fed up with the Jazz because it's like they're just gonna end up ruining half, if not more than half of these prospects. So fuck the Jazz, fuck Danny Ainge. They deserved to get their ass whooped. And it happened because they stink. And even without Jalen Brunson, we're a lot better than them. So that was cool. Really, they've had a light schedule the Knicks have had a light schedule that's about to toughen up. So, obviously the title fight on Friday night is the one we're all looking forward to against our nemesis, Ifart, and his Canadian fraudulent leader, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Other dastardly contributors on that team include allegedly almost Nick, Jalen Williams, Kaysen Wallace, aka Fake Deuce McBride. The list goes on. The list goes on. So hopefully, the Knicks bring their A game. It'll be interesting because it is very much a unstoppable force meets an immovable object. It'll be interesting to see if their bevy of really good defenders can just use their athleticism to like bridge the gaps in the court spacing created by our lineups. Um, it'll be interesting to see what we do with SGA, who's just like, man, just like his buckets are fucking crazy. Like the Thunder are fucking annoying, but like it's not really unlike when I watch Kyrie Irving play. Like I don't like Kyrie Irving, but I just fucking love the way he plays. So like I can't help but enjoy it. It's the same with SGA. Like his game is just, I don't know, man. His combination of like handle, footwork, speed, and craft. He does have some grifting to his game, but like there's enough other parts of his game that look cool and are effective that I kind of give him a little bit of a pass. So it'll be a good one to watch. I'm pretty sure that's probably why the Knicks were cautious with Jalen and Deuce. I would hope they were just like, man, the Jazz stink. We got the Thunder, and we got who we got a back to back, right? It's the
We
Thunder,
play
and
the
then
Bulls right after that. We travel to Chicago.
and then the Bulls, who like they're not the Thunder, but they're not a pushover. So yeah, I think that was the right decision if that was the case by the Knicks to give the guards a little bit of rest. I don't know, man. I'm the Jazz ain't shit, so like it's hard for me to take anything away from that. But at this point, it's just kind of cool to see a Knicks team that's a fucking buzzsaw. Like even when they're not really far ahead in games, you just know it's coming, right? Like Josh Hart had a quote, and he was talking about himself, where he was basically like, you might lock in, but eventually you're gonna fuck up, and I'm gonna take advantage of it. And that can pretty much be applied to the Knicks, who just sheer talent and good in-game schematic adjustments, like they will find the weakness on other defenses and then just kind of destroy teams. You I find myself going into like third and fourth quarters like, man, is our net rating gonna go down because we're only gonna win by like 5, and then they'll just blow the game open. I was at the second Wizards game, and that's exactly what happened. We were like, oh, like what a close game, haha, lol. And then in the fourth quarter, it was like a gazillion to 5 or some shit. So game over. So it'll be good, not just the Thunder, but this whole stretch where we got the Bulls and the Raptors, and then the Thunder again. Then I forget, I think we got a couple other good teams. So it'll be a good test to open the year.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how they defend Brunson and Cat, and how the Knicks handle that. That's probably gonna pretty much be the tail of the game, at least for us offensively. So very curious to see that. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, the last thing I'll add on the Thunder is like, I feel like when you have teams like that, a lot of it is really just it's not like the sexy answer, but like a lot of it just comes down to make or miss, right? Like the Knicks are no longer a grifting team. They're really good at putting the ball in the hoop. If their shooters hit tough shots like they can, then they probably win. The Thunder make that margin smaller. So like, if Cat goes 2 of 6 for 3 or 1 of 4, like it's gonna be hard. So it'll be interesting to see if we can just maintain the level of shot making, because like our top 3, right? Like Cat, Brunson, and McCall, like their shot making is just so fucking bonkers. It's like they've gotta be the best like shot making trio in the NBA. Like, I mean, Boston's up there, but they're kind of a little bit more reliant on like the math and the defense, just in terms of pure shot making. Like, this is probably the biggest test that the Thunder will face.
Yeah. The Thunder even though they now have I fart, they're still not a very good defensive rebounding team. I think they rank 26th, I want to say, in defensive rebounding. So if the Knicks were to lean into their grifting past, this would be a good matchup to potentially exploit in that sense. So watch out for Josh Hart on the glass. So that, I will be on the lookout for that. But aside from those things, we're not really here to talk about the Knicks today. I think we've all. I mean, it's kind of stupid when people say it like, "Oh, they're just beating up on bad teams. Like, we know they can do this." I don't agree that like it doesn't matter. I think it's actually very important that you just beat the shit out of bad teams and like that you keep racking up these wins. Especially because we saw earlier in the season, right? They dropped games that you feel like they shouldn't have dropped. And that was for a variety of reasons, focus, lack of defensive execution, whatever. That being said, they took care of business. That's important. That's great. But it is, I don't want to say it's boring, but it is like relatively, after a certain point, some of these games, you're like, I don't really have anything new to say. Like there's really nothing new to say about, oh, they beat Washington twice. Oh, they beat, the fucking Jazz. They beat, whoever. And look, even within this streak, they have had some legitimately good wins. Like you can't, I know Minnesota's had their significant ups and downs this season and inconsistencies, but they have been an elite defensive team. The Knicks went in there and just absolutely blew the doors off them. So, I don't fully subscribe to this idea that like there's not even that many, like they don't even have quality wins or whatever. They smoked Denver in Denver. Like they've had good wins this year. We've seen them put the beat down on some pretty decent teams. Milwaukee earlier in the season as well. So like, I don't agree with all of that kind of stuff, but I do understand if people are like, yeah, well, we kind of already know all this stuff about this team. So I do get that. To me, I think you're going to learn a lot more about this team in this upcoming stretch, which gets a little bit more difficult. So definitely looking forward to that, and we'll see what happens. Okay, well, what we're here to discuss is, I guess this could involve the Knicks, but we are here to discuss who the buyers are, who the sellers are leading up to this year's trade deadline. And it's very, very appropriate. And actually, I want to do this as who should be the buyers, who should be the sellers. And that's how we're going to do this discussion. And in that vein, it was great. It was fantastic even that we played Utah yesterday. Because, man, is that a roster that is so fucking stupidly assembled and is working towards no cohesive purpose at all. That's the best way I could describe Utah. And that's honestly how I describe that game. The Knicks didn't have some great outlier shooting performance. They didn't get supernova from three or make a bunch of hero shots that are unsustainable. The Knicks pretty methodically just gradually hammered them. So it was a 4-quarter gradual hammering. And they didn't knock them out. They got they won on the scorecard type of game, but they won decisively on the scorecard yesterday. That game went the distance, but it was over in the last, 5-6 minutes of the game, more than that probably. That Utah team is an abomination. I have no idea what Jordan Clarkson or Colin Sexton are still doing on that team. I quite honestly don't even understand why Lauri Markkanen is still on that team, because they have no path right now to anything, to relevance in the Western Conference, to competing, to contending, nothing. They have nothing. And it's because their young talent is not particularly good right now. Like they don't really have a guy at this point that you'd say, this guy, he's somebody we can build with and around for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Not a single guy. And that's not surprising because their drafts have been a fucking weird shit show over the last couple of years. So since Danny Ainge took over, they did not have a draft pick in 2022. That was the situation he inherited. They did not have a draft pick that year. They did acquire Walker Kessler in the Rudy Gobert trade. Their drafts after that are 2023, They draft Taylor Hendricks, number 9 overall. They drafted Keontae George, number 16 overall. And they draft Bryce Sensabaugh, 28th overall. This past season,
My
2020.
son Bryce.
Yep. He looked
Quick
terrible
tangent.
yesterday.
Early in the game, I was like, "Yo, who the?" I was messaging Jeremy from Knicks Film School. I was like, "Yo, who the fuck is number 28 on Utah?" And he was like, "Isn't that your son, Bryce?" He just lost so much weight that I didn't recognize him, and he also lost. I regret to inform people his aura and shot making ability with that weight loss. So,
Well,
all right,
it was always a
it's
matter of
Danny Ainge's
time.
fault. I'm not gonna blame Bryce.
I would blame Danny Ainge. I would also blame where he got his college education. I think both of them are equally responsible for that.
Bad
This
life
past
decisions.
this past season, they drafted Cody Williams at 10. They drafted Isaiah Collier at 29. They drafted Kyle Filipowski at 32.
I'm
Now,
gonna just say one other chance.
yep,
Cody was the second worst draft pick of the lottery. There.
was the worst one your son T. John Salon?
What is the opposite of a son? Because that's what T.J. Salon and his 31 field goal percentages.
He's I don't know about that one. Whatever.
Can you do you like? I'm so happy we're past those days, and now we're like quibbling about like, oh, who are we gonna draft with the 25th pick or whatever? Can like
that we're not doing deep dives on like Frank Ntilikina's layup improvements.
at least Frank was good at defense. He might as well have shot 31%. He probably did shoot 31% from the field at some point, but
I'm
like
positive he did. Yeah, might be his career number.
the
Yeah,
dark days.
my son though, always my son.